Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about hyperpigmentation, and today's video is inspired by consultations that I did in the office today. Almost everybody who came in was struggling with hyperpigmentation or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. So I decided to sit down after work. It's getting dark, but sit down, make this video and talk about hyperpigmentation in a very broad way, just to give you guys a good picture of what could be going on with your skin and what you could do in terms of what we can do in the office. Okay, so hyperpigmentation or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, which is what I'm going to be talking about specifically, is when you have increased pigment in the skin after an inflammatory process. So the inflammatory process could be anything. It could be acne, it could be hair, so people have facial hair or ingrown hairs that causes folliculitis, right? And then the result of that is inflammation, and then that leads to hyperpigmentation. It could be from a bug bite, it could be from like an injury, maybe you scratched yourself. It could be from a chemical, like for example, I recently had someone have hyperpigmentation because she used an acid in her private area and it burned her. So we had to deal with that. So whatever the case may be, the hyperpigmentation occurs because there's an inflammatory process, okay? And as part of the inflammatory process, your body is going to produce melanin. So then as a caveat, I primarily see people of color in my office. So then the question now comes, well, why do we have melanin in the first place? And what is melanin's role in our skin? And why does it overreact when we have inflammation, right? So melanin is a pigment that basically protects you from the sun. So think of melanin as a black person or a person of African descent or a person of color's defense from the sun, okay? So melanin is I don't want to say anything about evolution, but melanin's primary job is to protect the individual from UV rays, okay? And there's different forms of UV rays. So primarily for people of African descent, for example, the protection is against UVB rays. So UVB is the spectrum of light where it burns your skin, right? So when I was in medical school, UVA is what ages your skin and B is what burns your skin. And typically UVB is also what is going to cause you to have skin cancer, which is why a lot of people of color do not typically have skin cancer. Typically, maybe later on in the channel we'll talk about why some people are starting to have more skin cancer. But historically, black people don't have skin cancer. The only form of skin cancer that typically will occur in black people are going to be melanomas, and typically that's going to be in the nails, in the palms, in the soles, and on the scalp, okay? So the reason why we have melanin is to protect us from the sun. And more specifically, melanin's job is to prevent the UV rays from damaging the DNA in our skin, and as a way of responding when your skin is exposed to the sun or to UV rays, it's going to congregate to protect you, okay? So your melanocytes are going to produce melanin, a lot of melanin coming together in a way of protecting you, okay? And so that is why we have melanin, okay? So now us as black people, obviously, there's many things, but whenever you have hyperpigmentation, your melanocytes, especially when you have inflammation on the skin, your melanocytes are going to believe or think that it's coming from the sun, okay? So it's going to have the same reaction that it would have when you tan, for example, right? So tanning is a way of protecting you from the sun. And so if you have any form of inflammation in your body, especially on your skin, then there's a high likelihood as a melanated person that you're going to develop hyperpigmentation, okay? Now, the hyperpigmentation that comes from an injury, for example, acne, or for example, a bug bite or a cut, that should resolve within a few months, okay? And so the problem persists When the problem persists, that's usually when people come to the office to see me, because they've had this pigmentation for maybe 6+ months. They've tried different things and nothing is working. And so when I'm having conversations with patients, I really have to ask so many questions, because hyperpigmentation is very, very tricky and it's very, very complex, and there could be so many things going wrong in the body that could present with hyperpigmentation. So the first thing that I always want to know about a person, and this is also something that I do in terms of blood work, I want to know the person's metabolic status, okay? I want to know, are they insulin resistant? Are they pre-diabetic? How are they? Do they have a good way of managing glucose or energy in the body? So that's the first question. So I always check that in the blood work. And then secondly, I'm going to ask about inflammation in the body. So do they have any autoimmune conditions, or do they have any evidence of inflammation on their body that they may not be aware of, right? Because if you tend to be inflamed internally, it can present itself externally, okay? And so when you're inflamed, for example, your body is creating a lot of energy to tackle whatever it's tackling. It could be an autoimmune condition, right? And so as a result, not enough resources are going to be sent to your skin. And so when you have an injury, hyperpigmentation essentially is just an incomplete wound. And so even though the wound closes over, the pigment doesn't disappear the way it should if your body was able to heal properly, right? And so I always want to know, are you metabolically okay? Are you inflamed? And then I also want to know, do you have the building blocks necessary for your body to heal properly? So this is where iron deficiency comes in, which is a huge problem in the Black community. A lot of women are iron deficient. And the second thing is vitamin D deficiency. Those two things, if you have those two things, you're going to have a really hard time getting rid of your hyperpigmentation, because vitamin D and iron and having low inflammatory markers and having really good insulin sensitivity, those four things are critical for your wounds to heal properly. And so if one or two or all those things are off, then we're going to have a problem, right? And so whenever people come in for a consultation for hyperpigmentation, we are going to do blood work to just check all those things, make sure that those things are okay, and really start from there, because depending on what the blood work shows, that's going to help guide us and figure out like what can we actually do. So for example, if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, I can't do any chemical things with you, right? If your inflammatory markers are high, then I need to try to see how we can work with your other physicians to bring things down, for example. Or if your iron is low, then we need to bring that up. And specifically, I check ferritin, because ferritin is the stored version of iron in your bone marrow. And you need to have enough reserves for your body to send extra, iron to your skin, right? Even though your skin is the largest organ, it tends to be the last to get resources from the body. So your hair, your skin, your nails, it gets the last amount, right? And so if your stores, your reserves are low, then your skin is not going to get what it needs to heal properly. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So whenever you're thinking about your hyperpigmentation, if after 6 months it's not clearing up, and you tried over-the-counter stuff, ingredients like tyrosinase inhibitors or acids or retinol, anything that you've tried that you're aware of that can help with pigment and it's not helping, then it might be time to talk to your doctor to try to figure out what else could be going wrong. Okay, so for me, when patients come to my office, we start with blood work, okay? And I always say, before we even get the results, because I will do blood work, get the results, and then we can decide on a plan of action, you always have to make sure that if you tend to be iron deficient or you tend to be low in vitamin D, you need to optimize those things. That's super duper critical. And you need to wear sunscreen. Like, it's non-negotiable, okay? And I want to talk a little bit about sunscreen, because I hear this all the time. Black people don't need sunscreen. Black people need sunscreen, okay? Everybody on earth practices some form of sun protection. like if you go to like tribes in Africa, even though they have dark skin, they still protect their skin. Some of them will take animal poop and put on their skin, right? Especially if they're going to be out during certain hours where we know that the UV indexes are high. So everybody practices sun protection. Luckily for us, we have built-in UV protection, but it's not going to be enough, okay? And so what I tell people is, if you're a person of color and you live in the northern hemisphere, automatically, no matter what your health status is, you should be wearing sunscreen, because in the northern hemisphere you have more UVA rays than UVB rays, and UVA is going to quote unquote age your skin. It causes more DNA damage, and so you don't only get more hyperpigmentation, but you're also going to lose volume as well, which we will talk about in another video. So as a general rule, anybody who is a black person or a brown person who lives in the northern hemisphere should be wearing sunscreen or should be practicing some form of sun protection, okay? So that's the first thing. And then add to the fact that you might have iron deficiency anemia or vitamin D deficiency because you're in the northern hemisphere, you again should be wearing sun protection. Now, if you are not in the northern hemisphere, or if you have any inflammatory condition, so eczema or prediabetes or any medical condition at all that causes stress in the body, wear sunscreen, okay? So any acne, any facial hair, dark marks, if you're just prone to dark marks, wear sunscreen, please. Just, you know. And now the question is, okay, which sunscreen do you wear? The general advice is wear the sunscreen that you have available to you, that you can wear consistently. And then if you're in Europe and in Asia, they have better sunscreens, so they have better filters. So you can find European sunscreens, and Asian sunscreens have better filters, so you can have less of a white cast, for example. In America, it's a little bit behind. FDA is a little bit behind. So a lot of our sunscreens that are great for darker skin tones tend to leave not the best hues on the skin. So personally, I get my sunscreens from Europe. You can find European sunscreens online, but you cannot go to the store, for example, and get a European brand sunscreen that has filters approved in Europe. So for example, I use La Roche-Posay, but the one that I use I cannot buy from here, so I get from Europe. So that's just like an aside. Okay, and so sunscreen is the main thing that you need to be using if you have hyperpigmentation. There are other ingredients that we can talk about. I can make tons of videos on those in the future, but when it comes to hyperpigmentation, the most important skincare ingredient that you need to be using, or skincare product that you need to be using consistently, is going to be sunscreen, okay? So once you've done blood work with us and you're on a sunscreen regimen, then we have other options, right? So we have things like chemical peels, which again we can do, but that's going to depend on what's going on internally, because if you have an autoimmune condition or if you are pre-diabetic, then you're not a good candidate for chemical peels, and sometimes they can make things worse. Same with microneedling. So again, it's always going to be important to know what's happening with you internally so we can make decisions on what's the best thing for you. For pigments, we can do forms of laser resurfacing if you're the right candidate for it. And then we have things like Pico or Q-switch lasers, which help to break pigment. And I want to say, a lot of people come because they know I have a Pico laser and they're like, I want Pico. Let me tell you, Pico is always going to be the last option unless there's like a really good reason why I would go for Pico first. So Pico lasers, or lasers in general, when it comes to hyperpigmentation, they're going to be the last thing that we offer, okay? Even though people love lasers and, you know, you want to get rid of the thing as soon as possible, they can also cause the most amount of damage to the skin. So we have to make sure that we pick the right candidate for the laser, and we make sure that we've tried other things before we ever put the person on, before we ever start the person on like laser, for example, or a Pico laser or a Q-switch, whichever one your provider has available. Okay, so just want to go over this is just like an overview of like how I approach hyperpigmentation in my office. I will probably do more videos about different topics. So if you have more questions about hyperpigmentation, leave them below and I'll make more videos about them. I will also make videos about skincare products that are out in the market that could be really good for helping with hyperpigmentation. Because if you don't have to come to see a skincare provider, then you don't have to, right? So it's really important to make sure that you know what you can do at home, and then you know when to come to the doctor. So I will do my best to help you guys with that here on this channel. So stick around, subscribe, do all the things, and if you have questions, leave them below. Again, my practice is Light Medical and Aesthetics. We are in Falls Church, Virginia, so I'm in the DC metro area. So if you want to stop by, I'll leave my information below. All right, so this was just a quick rant after work. I just wanted to get it out of my head so I don't forget. But hopefully someone finds this useful, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.